I have to start with this from Austin, Texas, and this is why I said that I am concerned about the border here in Texas, and not as concerned about the southern border as I am the northern border. And now that anybody that should be here is here, I think we should seal the northern border. We have 1,500 people from California move to Texas every single day. 1,500. How long before they destroy this place as well? Because they don't seem to connect the dots. They're moving here for a reason. And they'll say, well, I'm moving here because of my job. I had to get a job. Well,
why is there a job here?
Let's do the math. Mm-hmm. What's happening? Why has Texas created 50% of all of the jobs in the last 6 years? Think of that. One state. 50% of all the jobs have been created here. Why? Because we don't suck.
Six of the fastest 10 growing cities in America are in Texas.
We allow you to actually be yourself. We don't strap you down. It took me a year and a half to build one radio studio in New York City. That was actually about a year, just over a year. One radio studio. And it was all roped off and nobody could walk on the side and it was in the middle of it. I mean, it was a nightmare for a year. Took us 3 weeks to build high-definition control rooms here in the studios in Las Colinas, Texas. Something's wrong here. And when I say here, I don't mean Texas, I mean in New York and the rest of the country. And people have to understand that. And I've been saying for a while, I want to run a campaign. I got to find a rich oil guy who just says, I want to keep Texas, Texas. Because I think we need to start running a campaign in Texas. Move here for the jobs, stay here for the freedom. And they need to understand, people need to understand when you're here, it's different here for a reason. It's not magic fairy dust that makes these jobs. It is the philosophy of freedom. Unfortunately, here's what we get. This is an actual letter from a woman named Gretchen Gardner. She is an Austin artist who bought a 1930s bungalow just south of downtown Austin. Now, she did this in 1991. So she came here in 1991. She bought this bungalow. And she was like, oh, because let's keep Austin weird. Okay. So she has seen now her property bill skyrocket to $8,500 this year. It's $8,500 a year in her property taxes to live in Austin. She said, I'm at the breaking point. I'm quoting. I'm at the breaking point. It's not because I don't like paying taxes. I know. Who doesn't like paying taxes? Don't we all love paying taxes? Seriously.
Love it.
I love taxes.
I get to tax day and I think to myself, this is my favorite day of the year.
That's what I say.
That's what I say.
It's my Christmas.
So, Gretchen, there's not a problem there already off the bat. Everybody is with you. Everybody on the planet loves to pay taxes. It's not because I don't like paying taxes. Quote, I have voted for every park. I have voted for every library, all of the school improvements, for light rail, for anything that will make this city better. But now I can't afford to live here anymore. I protest my appraisal notice, but that's not enough. Somebody needs to step in and address this big picture.
Big picture is you, hon.
Yeah, sweetie
and
boopy,
your
honey
stupid
pie.
choices, Puddin.
I say this with all respect
Jeez.
and love that Puddin deserves. But let's do the math here. You voted for every park. Mm-hmm. They're not free. Parks just don't show up. Mm-hmm. I voted for every library. Last I checked, books cost money.
As do buildings.
Buildings cost employees in the buildings.
Yeah.
I voted for all the school improvements.
Ooh, believe me, that costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
You know,
voted for light rail. I love this one. I voted for light rail.
Oh, that's cheap, though. That's cheap.
That is cheap, and it's a boon to the economy every place.
You can get those for under $10 billion usually.
Yeah. And so seriously, you can.
Yes, you
and
can.
they make so much money.
There is literally not one example in the entire United States of light rail working out the way it was projected to work out. Not one example. Send them to me. We've requested them many times. There is not one example of any. You could say, well, I like it, though. It's free. I go down, I use it all the time. That's not an example of it working.
No.
It's supposed to pay for itself. It'd be great if it made money so you could then make improvements and expand it.
Yeah.
But let's just get it to pay for itself.
Let me give you these 2 basic requirements. And again, send me an example. Go for it. Try. First of all, got to come in under budget. At budget or under budget.
Doesn't happen.
Secondly, it's got to actually pay for itself without taking federal bailout money or anything like that. Paying for itself and coming in at budget or under. Not one example in the entire United States, and I would guess the entire world.
Yeah, but there you go with your guessery.
Sorry, there could be one in Madagascar that's paying off really well.
Yeah, you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know. Let me just say this. This time it will be different, Stu. Mm-hmm. Okay, everybody else builds light rail, but this time
in Austin will do it right.
This rail, we're going to do it right. Everybody else fails, but we have the plan, and everybody's going to ride it. Nobody's going to drive cars anymore. Everybody's going to ride the light rail.
And the funny thing is, first of all, no one, of course, ever. I mean, people do ride it, but that doesn't, You
know what I thought of?
A lot of times it's free.
Sometimes they ride it.
Sometimes they do. Sometimes
DART here in Dallas runs empty all the time. Okay. Every time I see that zipping over me, I'm like,
empty.
There's nobody in it.
Here's what I thought of. This week, the CBS announced that they are canceling the Arsenio Hall show. The only reason why I know that show is on is because they have put these big billboards with his face on the light rail here. Mm-hmm. And every time I see it, I think Arsenio, only in paper form, but Arsenio is the only one riding the light rail in Dallas. Now, Arsenio's not going to be riding the rail. So there's no reason for that thing to run.
No.
I've never seen another human being, and I pass it every day, I have never seen another human being ride the light rail.
It's a failed project in every city in which I've lived. I think Salt Lakers like their light rail.
And that's different.
People like it. People like it.
Yeah, that's a different thing. Right?
I like it. I like driving by it, and I see it, and I'm like, man, I should be on that light rail. I'm never going to do it.
In Houston, they don't even like it because it's like 7 miles. Takes you nowhere. Takes you from downtown to Reliant Stadium.
Well, that's like the monorail was one of the first examples of this, modern day monorail in Seattle. And I remember it took you from downtown to the Seattle Center. Well, when I was growing up, you were downtown. The Seattle Center was dead. This was before they redid it and it was dead. It was like, hey, come to Knife Park and be knifed. And so you're like, the monorail's cool, but I don't want to go to Knife Park. What are you using it for?
Shouldn't a light rail system take you from where you live to where you work? Wouldn't that be sort of handy?
Yeah, what's interesting about that? What's interesting about that, however, is those things change. Yeah, cities change. Neighborhoods become desirable, and then they become undesirable. But the trains still keep going to them.
It's amazing,
and that's the problem with trains.
It's amazing.
That's why we stopped using them all the time, like in the 19th century.
Mm-hmm.
It's 19th century technology.
In Manhattan, my daughter lived right outside of Alphabet City. Alphabet City was, in the 1980s. When I knew about Alphabet, she said, yeah, it's just right outside of Alphabet City. I'm like, what? What? Alphabet City was heroin city. It made Knife Park seem like a place you wanted to go. Now, that section of Manhattan is starting to be really nice. And other sections are going down. And Stu's exactly right. Even in that contained city, neighborhoods go up and down all the time. So you can never do that.
No. In New York, Harlem's another example of that.
Yeah.
Harlem is great for the most part now. And
you are so welcome there.
Oh, God, they love me there. Please come to Harlem for the springtime. Is what they.
Oh yeah,
that's what they say.
This happens over. When we were in Seattle years ago, Glenn, we rode that monorail or whatever it was, light rail, and it was just essentially us. It was me and you, and I think one other person on the entire train, riding it in the middle of the day.
Yep.
And this is what happens when these policies become reality, and reality hits you with them.
Well, that happened with it. That was built for the World's Fair. That's why that was there. That wasn't built. That was like, hey, look what we can do in the city of the future.
World's Fair. Right. It kind of tells you.
Where the World's Fair. From. Tell me one thing that came out of a World's Fair that you're like, hey, that's great. The only thing I could think of, 1893, the light bulb. That's it.
That's a big one.
Yeah, it's a big one. Mm-hmm. But I think maybe we can stop looking at the World's Fair as the things that we're like, hey, that's the future.
And my guess is we would have come up with the light bulb without the fair.
Oh, yeah, we would have. Yeah, we would have.
But this is a great thing with Seattle.
And actually, the light bulb that was introduced at the World's Fair, we don't use.
No.
We don't use.
It's illegal by now.
Yeah, sure. Nobody ever used that one.
In Seattle, another policy, they just passed a $15 minimum wage.
Oh, that's going to be so good.
And this is the sort of thing, though, that never gets talked about. Here is...
now the monorail's going to be packed.
It's going to be really packed. SeaTac, which is their airport, they put in... they instituted the $15 minimum wage starting January 1st. So they're ahead of the game here.
Yeah.
Good for them. Good for them.
This is a great real experience. What really happens when these policies happen?
We get to talk to some employees who are already enjoying and reaping the benefits of this plan.
Right. This is from Asian Weekly. They asked.
Wait, I don't remember Asian Weekly in the is that a division of the Seattle PI or the Seattle Times?
I don't know.
Asian Weekly, because you would think that the Seattle papers of the Seattle Cairo News Radio would be all over, but Asian Weekly has this. Okay, so Asian Weekly.
They asked a woman if she liked the $15 wage. She was working for the $15 minimum wage.
She loves it. She has to.
She replied, "It sounds good."
What?
But it's not good.
Wait, what?
Interesting. Asked why.
Wait. Can I guess?
Sure.
Yeah. They've had to let other people off, and so now she has more work to do.
You're going to be amazed. Of course, that's completely true, but not the reasons she gave.
Okay.
She says, well,
it's even better than that. It's even better
because this is something.
It's much more personal.
I lost my 401k.
Oh, boy.
My health insurance.
Oh, gosh.
My paid holiday.
Darn it.
And vacation, she responded. No more free food, she added.
More food.
The hotel used to feed her. Now she has to bring her own food.
Can you imagine the outrage?
Also, no overtime, she said. She used
in order to pay for it, they cut everything else
of course they would.
Get. Yeah, of course.
Of course they would.
But there's more.
She used to work extra hours and receive overtime pay. What else? She was asked. I have to now pay for parking, she said.
How much do you want? $15 an hour.
So how much did this $15 an hour wage actually cost her in reality?
Right. Think of all these things. I mean, what do they cost?
What does it cost now?
We don't have a scientific study on that, but I'm sure we could try to figure that out. She says now, yes, I've got $15 an hour. But she was on the catering staff, and now the tips are gone from the catering staff as well. So her tips are much less. Before the new wage law was implemented, her hourly wage was $7, but her tips added to more than $15 an hour, just with tips.
What do you want to bet?
And she reserved free food and parking, all those benefits. She's lost all of it.
Seattle is going to go through, Seattle will go through a depression. You watch. And Seattle people will move their companies out of Seattle. You won't be able to do business. You can't. And the people who do keep their companies there, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Unless you're one of these companies, and I don't know them, but unless you're one of these companies that just spends water like money because you just have it coming out of your ears. I mean, we take care of our employees and we have a nice facility to work in, but we are not grotesque with our money. We do everything as cheaply as we possibly can and get the right quality out of it. Any company that tries to do that, you are strapped. You are at the limit. Your electricity, do you know what, if electricity prices necessarily skyrocket, do you know what it takes to keep these damn lights on? In these, you know what our power bill alone is?
No, what?
No, it's a lot. And now you're going to come to me. If I was in Seattle and I'm doing business here, I cannot afford to stay open.
It will bankrupt them.
It will bankrupt them.
And this goes back to your original statement. Close the northern border of Texas.
You got to close the northern border.
We don't want people
open the southern border if you want. Close the northern border. But it goes back to the woman here. It's not like I don't like paying taxes. I voted for every park, every library, all the school improvements, the light rail, anything that'll make this city better. If they would have said a $15 minimum wage, she would have voted for it. But now I can't afford to live here anymore. Somebody's got to address this. Yes. I recommend Adam Smith.
Honey, reality already addressed it. Yeah. Okay? That's what you're feeling.
Here's our sponsor this half hour. It is Goldline. But here's the thing that we didn't talk about. Let's be fair. All you have to do is put price caps on.
Oh,
Yeah, that's
you put price caps
that's
on.
That's a great recommendation.
Yeah.
Because then, you have $15, but everything costs the same.
Exactly right.
Your rent doesn't go up. You don't pay more in groceries, cars, gas, everything's the same.
You just put price caps on, and everything is fixed.
Excellent.
Not that we tried that with Jimmy Carter or anything. Oh, wait.